Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and this time we are looking at a stainless knife. This is the Kurodori Ginsan or Gintanko Gyuto 210mm knife. The core steel is what's known as Silver 3 or Ginsan or Ginsanko stainless steel. So it's a high quality stainless steel with a fine grain that sharpens well and takes a great edge. The heat treat on that core steel is approximately 6061 Rockwell. The construction is a stainless steel, softer stainless cladding on either side of that core steel for a 3-layer sandwich. And the weight on this, this is a pretty beefy knife, so the weight on this is 7 ounces. These dimensions and weights will vary just a little from knife to knife since they're handmade, but this particular one is 7 ounces. Blade length is about 218 on the edge, so it's an oversized 210. And the overall length was about 14.4 inches on this particular knife. The spine thickness coming out of the handle above the back of the blade or the chin here was about 3.4 millimeters. And then it does taper down off of that. We'll get a closer look at it, but it does taper down a bit. But then it doesn't have a lot of distal taper after that, so it doesn't really thin up too much at the tip until you hit the grind of the blade right in here. So it's a pretty substantial chunk of steel, and it feels that way in the hand. The blade height is 50.3 millimeters, so fairly tall. And the handle is one of Chef Knives to Go's semi-custom octagonal wenge with a maple ferrule. The circumference is about 80 millimeter or 3.15 inches at the ferrule main handle junction right here. This particular knife, as you can see, does have a pretty substantial neck or emoto, and this is called the choil in the back of the blade here, curves in there. So this has a nice location for your finger for purchase on a pinch grip. If you like that feel, this handle gives it to you in spades the way they mounted it. So plenty of clearance there for a pinch grip, even with larger hands than mine. And you've also got lots of clearance, despite the handle size, for board work, even with larger hands than mine again. So let's take a close-up look at this blade. It's really nicely done. It's an attractive-looking blade. As I said, it's a fairly good size and hefty chunk of steel, but you've got some deeply embossed kanji on this side and a smooth finish. It does have a kind of a faux kasumi finish on it that basically that's not where the grind starts, though. The grind starts a little bit lower than that, maybe a halfway down to the edge from that. So that particular line does not denote a grind. When you feel it with your fingers, the grind starts curving down towards the edge in this area here. But it does make for a nice effect. You can see the core steel showing up from the cladding. So it's a nice kasumi finish or effect that they put on it. I really shouldn't say faux because it looks nice, but it's got that change of direction on it. Here's the spine. So again, this knife is stiff, it's sturdy, it's got some weight to it, not a ton of distal taper. We'll take a look at the grind. It does thin out pretty nicely towards the edge, so it gets pretty thin at the edge. But again, this is a pretty hefty knife with a pretty good chunk of steel. The finish is good on the spine and the choil and pretty much ready to go. Out of the box edge on this was good. I'll give it a 5, maybe 6 out of 10. You could always improve that if you're a decent sharpener or if you've got a guided system like an Edge Pro from the out of the box edge, but it's a workable out of the box edge for sure. This does not have a ton of belly to it, so let's take a look at the profile on it. And it's got a well done profile, very smooth, no dips, bumps in the profile. It glides perfectly smoothly in an arc right into the heel, and there's a bit of a flat section at the heel. There's a bit of a back belly at the heel, not much, but it does flow in a bit of a flat section. As I said, it's a longer 210, so it's got a nice, pretty decent flat section. And then there's not a ton of belly, high belly towards the front of the knife, so it's not going to be a huge rocker. I can get right in there before I start digging the tip in. So this isn't going to be something you're going to crank way up here to rock with. So it'll do low rocking. I'd say it's better for either low rocking or other techniques. Glide cutting, push, pull, some chopping. But it's got a butt or smooth profile on it. It's a very attractive knife. So Ginsanko is a great steel. It is easy to sharpen. It takes a nice edge. It has decent edge retention. So it's one of the better stainless steels, just kind of a traditional type stainless steels out there. So here I have just a nice refined knife that's got some heft to it if that's something you're into, and that's something you're looking for. Let's talk about balance point. Sorry, I didn't want to forget that. The handle's fairly light, so the balance point is where my finger is, and for me that's a little bit in front of my pinch grip. So this knife does have some of a weight forward balance to it, and again, feels like a pretty good chunk of steel in your hand. So it's definitely not a light, dainty little knife. So here you have a really well-done knife with some nice refined aesthetics. The Kurodori Ginsan or Ginsanko Gyuto 210mm knife.